Hi, welcome to Actual Spinster. Today I'm going to do the Hanukkah book tag, which was created by Anna, and I will definitely leave links to them and the original video in the description box, along with the questions and stuff. Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so question number one is shamash, or help a candle. What's a book that reignited or ignited your love of reading? I kind of struggled to find an answer for this question, to be honest. I thought that like Sea Witch by an author whose name I've now just completely forgotten, something with angel in it. I feel like I read that after I finished my undergraduate degree, and it like was one of the things that helped me like jump right back into like reading and like finding a lot of pleasure, because I hadn't really been able to read sort of outside of what I had to read, and even then I didn't read very much of that whilst at university because I was just very stressed. Question number two is menorah. What is a trope or a theme that you return to again and again? So I think some like pretty obvious themes that I return to are grief, especially kind of like queer grief. Obviously like mothering, reproduction, that kind of thing, communism, art to some degree. I feel like I haven't really sought books out necessarily for that, but it is something I enjoy in books, and I have some like specific books where I'm like, oh, I really liked how this was about art, but like not non-fiction books, fiction books specifically, and also fiction books that engage with archives. I think that's like a major thing that I love, which I think is clear on my channel. So yeah, I think those are some key things. If you have grief, archives, mothering, you've got the perfect book for me, really. Question number three is dreidel. Here's my tiny little dreidel. What's a memorable or favourite bookish quote? And actually, this is a quote that I've loved for many, many years, and I do think it's like basically totally decontextualized it, although I think it might be about like writing novels, which in my case would actually kind of add to its like, you know, representativeness or whatever, because I have thought a little bit about like getting it tattooed somewhere. And it's actually from Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, and it's "Let us not desert one another, we are an injured body." And I do actually think it is about like the injury done to like novels, and the novel is like speaking as itself, but yeah, as like a political praxis, I really like that too. So yeah, or like a kind of disability crip kind of relation to the world too. Question number four is Maccabees. What's a book that rocked your world and spurred you on towards social justice? I do think quite a lot of the reading I do, even if it's not inherently kind of about social justice or, you know, isn't massively heavy on that, I do find, well, I guess I do believe that like reading can be a practice of social justice, or there is something about empathy and also engaging with the world as it is, trying to imagine new ways that I think can be done really well through reading. Not the only way, and certainly not like the best way or like the most authentic way or whatever, but it definitely works for me, and I do think there is something there. So I guess recent books that maybe I feel like kind of fall into this would be like Communism for Kids, which I read in November or something, and Diane de Prima's Revolutionary Letters, some of which I do return to and reread over and over again, and they kind of bring me back to what I think is important, or they give me hope, or they take away my hope, but in a way that pushes me towards like being even more desperate to make a world that is better. I also think Feminism Interrupted by Lola Olufemi would also be like considered part of this question, and I also think that a book that I feel like I probably haven't talked about since I read it like in 2019 or something, but that's Carceral Capitalism by Jackie Wang. The final chapter of that is about prison abolition in a very direct way, and that final chapter really like kindled something even more inside of me, or in a way that almost feels like the embers won't go out because of that chapter. And you know, maybe I should reread it, but yeah, sometimes I think about that and it, you know, galvanizes me. Question number five is sufganiot. What stories feel especially warm and cozy to you right now? So there's like a second and another question that is kind of like a bit similar to this, or I would probably give it a similar answer, so I'm gonna like split it up. So right now I'm reading I'm rereading actually Murder Most Unladylike by Robin Stevens, and yeah, that feels like something that is very much like part of this like cozy darkness. I don't mean dark as in like, I literally just mean dark, that is like comforting. Yeah, even though it's like a murder mystery, but I know that lots of other people feel that way, especially around this time. And I mean, I definitely wasn't somebody who did feel that way, and I only think I'm interested in reading like kids murder mysteries rather than like, I don't know, adult ones. But yeah, that's something that I feel like I return to, or like that kind of vibe. I guess it's because they are written in quite like a comforting way, and that's really what you're looking for in the face of like the winter that happens and death and time changing. So you need the kind of comforting structure of a murder mystery sometimes, to say nothing of the actual like comfort of some of the stuff that is being described, because obviously there are definitely like some class stuff going on, and then the ones that I'm reading are like historical fiction, so they're also kind of displaced but in like a nice way, and yeah. Anyway, the next question is 6, and that's latkes, which obviously are delicious. This question is, what's a book that has carried you through dark times? And for this, I would say the Tiffany Aching series by Terry Pratchett. So I know it's not one specific book, but basically like I've been like constantly in a reread of that since I started the series. Like I literally started the Wee Free Man, I read that one, then I read the second one, and then I'm pretty sure I reread the Wee Free Man before I kept going. And I did that all the way until I had finally read the 5th book. I was always like constantly rereading it, and it's a reread that, you know, is going over many years. Like I don't read the whole series or reread the whole series in a year. I'm pretty sure I read the 5th book finally in 2020, so then I reread The Wee Free Man either in 2021 or in 2020, and so I'm probably on A Hatful of Sky, I think is the one I'm on next, or I might have read that in 2021. I'll have to look it up. I might be on Wintersmith in that case. But yeah, it's just kind of rolling through, and I obviously do have some that are like more favourite than others, and I don't really like the 5th one. I haven't reread that one yet, and I'm not sure if I will. But I mean I probably will at some point, but I don't know if I'll like properly go through it for the rolling reread that I do. I feel like I made that excessively complicated, sorry. Number 7 is Gelt, as in Hanukkah Gelt. What's a book that you're constantly recommending or giving away? And I think it will come as no surprise to anybody who watches my videos that I would say Lope by Charlotte von Reinhold, because I literally tell everybody about that. And also Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments by Sadia Hartman, which I also tell lots of people about, although I do often wait for like more of a specific reason to, because it's quite a thing to recommend people, I feel like, and so I want to be like responsible about it, I guess. I wouldn't just throw that out randomly, unless somebody was literally like, what's one of the best books you've ever read, then I would probably say some stuff, but that's like different than like actively recommending it, you know. Anyway, question number 8, which is of course the final question for 8 days of Hanukkah, not the Jewish Christmas. What's a book or bookish thing you changed your mind about after you learned more? I find this question really hard to come up with a specific answer, because I do feel like I often do, or like we're all kind of in processes of doing that, especially with reading. And I guess also maybe especially if you're reading books that are older, because you might read the book and then you might learn the context, or you might learn another part of the context, yeah, I don't know, and then you'll be like, oh, this character is actually supposed to represent this, which I dislike, or it makes me like it even more because it's really interesting to explore this, blah 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 blah. So yeah, I mean I didn't answer that question, but I can't really think of like a specific example for this, but just partially because I feel like with most books I read, I just always kind of have an understanding that like what I think of it right now doesn't inherently mean that I'll always think that way about it, both in terms of like learning more in the sense of like learning more about what the book leaves on me and what I take away from it. Anyway, okay, I think I've waffled on enough. If you'd like to do this tag, then definitely do consider yourself tagged, and yeah, I hope you have a nice Hanukkah, and I will talk to you when I next talk to you. Bye!